So first of all, thank you for having us today at your campus. I know it's by IIM standards very early in the morning, and I really appreciate you showing up for this event today. We heard that there is some chaos going on the campus, and we thought we would like to be a part of it, and hence the whole effort. A lot has been said about e-commerce in India in general. What is it all about? How is it about the consumer? How is it about changing the consumer behavior, so on and so forth. So let me take this opportunity to present this in a slightly different light from the supply chain perspective. How e-commerce in India is also an opportunity for supply chain in general, right? So eCart started out with the stated purpose that we want to transform commerce in India through technology, and that has been the visible part of what we have been trying to do, the front face of what we have been trying to achieve for quite a while now. What I'm trying to do today is take you to the other side of this journey, because there goes a lot behind the scenes. After the customer interaction at the app or the web is done, your order is placed, how do we get it to you? What are the challenges there, and what are our hypotheses there that what's going to transform, what's the transformation that's going to happen over the next 4 or 5 years in this space that's going to deliver a completely different set of expectations than what we have today. The Flipkart mantra around this process has been that, first of all, is our own willingness to experiment and disrupt ourselves. The whole supply chain journey for us basically started with asking one big bad question that, do we want, as Flipkart, do we want to commit to building a supply chain? And the answer for us came at a moment when we reached out to different partners in the country and said that, for our business, we need to do cash on delivery because customer trust is an issue. People don't want to use their credit cards online. This was an era not so long ago where even IRCTC website was one of the most visited, but at the same time, one of the most ridiculed in a way for its, lethargy and slowness and everything. So we said, this is critical for us. If this doesn't happen, we are not going to grow. Second part of this happened was when we decided to pivot our strategy from saying that, becoming a retailer a la Amazon in US versus becoming a marketplace where we are just a platform, we are the facilitator. It does Flipkart supply chain business as a standalone entity. We are probably the biggest non-franchisee delivery company already in India. And we are not even serving anybody else. So when you are in a situation where to serve your own business, you have to build India's largest network in that sense, then you know that you have to double down. You have no other option, right? The third part of it happened when we went from, when we committed to our mobile first strategy. We had in between, during this transition, we started asking ourselves another question, which was mostly about that how fast is e-commerce going to grow, and our realization that e-commerce in India is not going to grow linearly with desktop sales, but it is going to grow exponentially with mobile smartphone sales, right? And we were in a way kind of a catalyst in driving that with bringing mobile deals online, right? So that opened our eyes further that, that the pace and the growth is going to be even faster than what we had imagined. So, okay, now this is realization number 3, that we have to from doubling down, we have to probably triple down and more if we have to be a successful player in this transformation going forward. Now, in this front, the 3 pillars that we have had over our journey kind of became our cornerstone of what we are trying to do here. One is the customer focus part of it, the technology focus part of it, and the experimentation focus part of it. And through this talk, I'll walk through various angles. We'll touch upon these 3 at some point or the other, how that has become very much a DNA of how we have been thinking about on the supply chain front as well. this is our hypothesis of what's going to happen over a period of time in the e-commerce supply chain space till, let's say, year 2020. The first one is that, yes, this is more or less what everybody agrees on, that the consumers will spend more and they'll spend socially, right? Even today, the whole purchasing process is not a social process in e-commerce. Right? While offline, it is a very much a social process. You go out to a mall as a group. It's a friend's outing. It's a family's outing. It's just a group of people out there to shop for. If you look around, if you're ever in a mall, look around. How many people do you find that who are there by themselves? Most are in a group, right? And our hypothesis is that this phenomena is going to, this social phenomena is going to grow stronger on the online space as well. Well, as it happens, it's going to just it's just going to accelerate the whole adoption of the e-commerce and m-commerce market space. So volume, what will be the magnitude of this? We can argue about that, but it's going to be a serious a challenge of serious order of magnitude. There's no doubt about that. The second hypothesis is about services as a utility, right? So what customers, here I have, I think the first differentiator, my favorite example is our first differentiator when we started doing in-house supply chain on a serious note was our cash on delivery proposition, right? It did not come into the market very long time ago. It is a very recent phenomena, but when we started doing it, we thought we had a sustainable competitive advantage. Now it's a commodity. If you are not offering cash on delivery, you have no business being in e-commerce or being an e-commerce logistics service provider. Nobody wants to work with you, right? So in a way, as the innovations are happening, they're becoming a utility very fast. Our observation has been that our customers' wow factor is going up the value chain really fast. What wows them today, within a very short time, they will start taking for granted, and the recent behaviors that has happened in the consumer expectations just show that now not just the cash on delivery, even the speed part, which till 2 years back nobody used to talk about how much time it takes to deliver, but now everybody does make a comment that yeah, it took just a day, it got delivered the same day, it got delivered within 2 days, it came from Chennai to Tripura within a day, within 2 days, 3 days. So now so consumers are moving along that chain. The third part of it is that consumer behavior will drive service consumption. A very good part of it is that if we look at very early on, not very early on, just 10 years ago, it used to be that you used to buy services as discrete standalone entities and you used to try to put them together on your own. You'll buy a frame, you'll buy a mirror, and you'll get a carpenter to put it together. Now nobody wants to do that. What they do is they go to a frame shop and say, you know what, this is the design I want. This is the kind of mirror that I want. You figure it out, and I also want you to be responsible for putting it together in my home as well. I don't want to deal with 3 or 4 separate entities. Right? So while 10 years ago, it used to be that, I'm in your hands, you're the salesperson, you tell me what's good for me, what I should buy, to all along that, this is what I want. I want this color, this shade, this size, everything customized to me. And our economy is evolving to do that. As the e-commerce, m-commerce grows along, as the supply chain infrastructure builds, these niche players will continue to proliferate, who will be serving to your exact needs. And as that happens, you're going to look, as a consumer, we are going to look more and more that I want it my way. When I have an option, why not? And that's where we are going to move going forward. The next part is about infrastructure. Infrastructure has been a lacuna in the past. It continues to be a challenge today. But Our hope is that as it becomes more reliable and more streamlined, more national highways get built, more modes of transportation comes into the picture, more airports get built, more Indians take to flying, and so on and so forth. It's going to be a little more reliable. It will have a little more capacity, but it's going to become even more complex. And other part of the complexity will come that with our urbanization that is happening, real estate for all practical purposes is one of the most expensive in India. And even if you go 30-40 kilometers out of the city, it doesn't get cheaper. So where are we going to build our warehouses, right? A modern economy marches on its logistics. If millions and millions of Indians are going to move into the cities, where is going to be that logistics infrastructure at an affordable price that's going to serve to those consumers? So this is going to drive us to solve a little more complex problems than what we have seen in the past. Regulatory environment, similar story. For example, GST may make sense for us to start having larger and bigger warehouses, but everybody is keenly watching on what happens in every other parliamentary session, that do we get it or not. Well, every year we prepare a business plan that is GST ready, and every year we wait and watch. So hopefully sometime soon, right? But at the same time, while these are the challenges, there are quite a few innovations that are also happening, right? Like universal banking and less leakage will mean more spending power to the consumers, and these are the consumers that are coming online, right? Our first-time shoppers are as much as the folks with the first smartphone, and they come from every strata of the society. It is a public school kid who got his first smartphone, to even 18-20-year-old girl who has just started working on her first job and is excited about exploring the world, so on and so forth. And to an extent that there are quite a few organizations companies that are trying to solve even the C2C commerce problem, customer to customer, quicker, OLX and all that. They are working on that space, and I mean, I don't see any reason why somebody pretty soon why we'll not have a large segment of our population who will say, I make my living by selling on OLX. In a way, it already happens on eBay in US. It already happens in other parts of the world, and this segment of the population has already started growing up. So it's going to be more C2C commerce that's going to come up, but even the line between the B2C versus C2C will start blurring in that fashion. But there is a serious segment of these sellers for whom this has become a serious source of livelihood. They depend on it. If you take this away from them, they don't have a business. They don't have a source of income. And that segment is also growing very fast. There are quite a few of these sellers whom I interacted with us, who have come up with a problem statement saying that, I just want to be, my USP is, my strength is that I can spot what the consumer will buy. I can get it from wherever in the world it needs to be sourced. But I don't want to deal with the hassle of that, if I take a big bet on a certain product that Indian consumer is going to like it, how do I distribute it in India? Nobody does that. Can you be a single source omni-channel partner for me and distribute it for me, even on Amazon, even on Snapdeal, also deliver to my partner stores that are spread across the cities? So that's going to be also a big part of the play. Of course, it's Flipkart. Technology always is at the heart of everything. Technology will drive will continue to drive a lot of innovation in this space, and especially in the supply chain, on the logistics and on the efficiency side. Competitive landscape part of it. Well, the competitive landscape part of it also, our hypothesis is already undergoing a transformation, where partners are becoming competitors and competitors are becoming partners, and so on and so forth, right? A partner becomes a competitor, right? Paytm started as a wallet. Today, it's almost a full-fledged e-commerce. They are selling everything, that customers are willing to buy. Now, are they They used to be a partner, but they are as much a competitor today to most of the e-commerce operators in India. On the other hand, we have examples like Zoe, where competitors are becoming partners, where somebody has figured out, my strength is this niche. Why am I just selling it on my specialist website? I should make this product or this offering available to everybody in every platform. That has already started happening. Partners are also becoming customers, right? So our sellers who are very good at sourcing the best product from all over India, all over the world, they are also becoming our customers. We are providing them cataloging services that, how to put up their product online, the whole catalog shoot that needs to happen, the whole packaging that needs to happen, so on and so forth, as well as fulfillment and logistics services for which they pay us. So they are as much our customer as they are our partner. And customer is also becoming a partner. This one is where I referred to earlier in the C2C space, where he's a frequent buyer, but now he also works part-time as a fulfillment executive, delivery person to deliver the products to the e-commerce customers on a part-time basis whenever he or she has time. So in whole, the competitive landscape is shifting fast and is shifting in a matter of calendar years in the space. Our hypothesis is that it's going to become a battle of platforms plus supply chain, the way it is evolving right now, into a battle of ecosystems. How do we, because these partnership interactions, these competitive interactions, customer-partner relationships, all that is undergoing a transformation and metamorphosis in the sense, right? There are 3PL partners who are serving everybody. There are buyers who are buying from multiple platforms. There are sellers who are selling on multiple platforms. There is infrastructure that is being shared across. So a lot of what happens over the next 4 to 5 years will get driven by that, how smartly these organizations understand this ecosystem play, and how smartly we are able to A, grow it, B, participate in it, and C, take advantage of it and adopt your business model accordingly on that space. States the obvious, this slide about people, things, and businesses are internet. People are already interconnected. I'm not sure how many people I'll find in this room who are not on Facebook, LinkedIn, or some or the other social networking site. Internet of Things is a reality. There are over 5 billion devices in the world already who are connected with each other. Processing power is becoming cheaper. Data sciences are evolving very fast. But at the same time, the business opportunity of leveraging the previous two is also growing pretty fast, right? India will become a 3 trillion economy, and our hypothesis is that at least 10% of that will be e-commerce in one way or the other. That will be the business happening on the ether, services getting delivered around it through ecosystems, so on and so forth. So in essence, when all these things are coming together, well, India is ready for a networked economy. All the essential ingredients that we look for in a networked economy together are coming together already. Now, in the past, it used to be that we used to observe this phenomena first happening in a developed market like US, Japan, Europe, somewhere else. But what's happening now, the hypothesis is that what's going to happen from now onwards is going to happen almost at the same pace across the geographies. Because more or less similar players are working there, with similar ambitions are present in each of these spaces. Technology does not require a huge supply chain to get transplanted into another geography, into another country, so on and so forth. So in a way, networked economy is already here for India as well, and it will be big in the future, right? So projection is globally that it will be $100 trillion global economy. $10 trillion of that, perhaps as much as $10 trillion of that could be India. Right? So if you look at it, we are still fighting to define what's going to happen in a very small space in the global economy, 10% of 10%, right? But for that, that space itself is big enough for us to put our heart and soul in winning over, or let's just forget about being winning over, be a very enthusiastic partner in defining what happens in that space, be at the forefront of that revolution rather than be a follower. Let me quickly come to what the supply chain side of the business, what all these hypotheses mean for the supply chain part of the business for Flipkart. Colloquially, we call this part of the business as e-cart side of the business because that was the name we had coined early on, and that stuck and stayed. So it's within Flipkart, you get to know supply chain part of the business that last week Binny Bansal used to head, and now he heads both the group CEO as well as the CM CEO position. So his group is known as the e-cart business, right? So on the e-cart side, on one side, so this is how we exist today. That we have a Flipkart side of the business, which is about the online properties, Flipkart.com, the app and everything, merchandising that's happening over there, and everything and anything that consumer does while interacting with our web and app, and we just take it from there and get the orders delivered. But the ecosystem is going to evolve over the next 4 years into a much more complex ones where e-cart will sit at the heart of that ecosystem. Right? It is about offering services to the sellers, because now sellers saying that, you know what, I don't want to deal with 5 different players. Just like us consumers, we don't want to deal with 5 people to get the same end service. They don't want to deal with 5 service providers to get the same service. They don't want to deal with a different person showing up in the name of Amazon, Snapdeal, Zovi, and everybody. They don't want to talk to a different guy to get their products packaged and ready for distribution. They don't want to talk to a different person to provide them warehousing or import logistics services or whatever they may need. They are saying that I'm going to partner with just one, and that one should take care of it all for me. End consumer is also looking for a little more than what we have been offering today, and is getting much more demanding and rightly so. That I just do not want a delivery. I want a delivery at the time slot that I choose, at the address that I choose. I don't know where I'm going to be 3 days from now. You're giving me a 3-day lead time. First of all, that's not acceptable. Second is, if you ask me tomorrow at full day, where am I going to be? I'm not going to be hanging around in one location waiting for a parcel to show up. Oh, by the way, I have ordered cash on delivery, but I want the flexibility that, I'll let you know where I'm at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. You just show up there and give it to me there. I want to be able to change the name of the receiver whom you should hand it over. I'm not going to be around. I want you to hand it over to my employee. I want you to hand it over to my mother. I want you to hand it over to my security guard. So in a way, what used to be a delight factor, now they want just as they are going to want it just as a convenience factor. That I just want to be done it that way because I know it can be done and I'm paying for it. Third-party logistics, I'm going to talk about this in a little while in subsequent slides, how that transformation is also going to play into the e-carts journey as we see it. Financial services, we are already handling a few 100 crores of rupees in daily cash collections daily, right? What more can we do for our consumers there? We are one organization that gets to meet you at your home or place of business before delivering you and getting cash from you. A lot of credit rating happens even without that much physical verification in an environment like India, right? Of course, we also want to be part of that network economy. We want to learn more about our consumers and the way our services are done today. Today's Indian logistics market is assessed, so this is from multiple consulting companies and our internal analysis as well, stands at about approximately 122 billion. Right? out of which the lion's share is actually the transportation industry, which is just moving goods from location A to location B. No value addition, nothing. You're just moving the stuff. And warehousing and other value-added services account for another 50 billion or so in this market today. Out of which, if I may say that, let's look at how organized this sector and this segment is. Non-agricultural warehousing and value-added services, highly unorganized market. There's not a single player I can go and talk to when I say that, I have a pan-India warehousing need. Can you help me out? I have to go in each region with each person individually, talk it through, make each deal on an individual standalone basis today. Right? Then even on the road transportation side, if I had more time, I'm already been given the time signal, so let me just jump to that answer. The average fleet size in the Indian transportation industry is in single digits. Depending on what source or data you use, you can quote it from anywhere from 3 to 5 to 7 trucks per operator. Right? And this is when you have national players, a huge market of national players, who are looking to say that I do not want transportation services in just one geography or in one time dimension. Today I have extra demand in Mumbai, tomorrow I have more demand in Delhi. Who can I work with to get those services? It is still a very much a market that is driven by mandis and truck unions and so on and so forth, with very little transparency on the pricing mechanism and so on and so forth. Right? A big opportunity here for taking. Quite a few players have already made a foray. Black Buck is one of them, Map My India and others who are already eyeing this market and saying that how can we add value into this market. And this much is very much of interest to us because, well, transportation remains a significant part of our fulfillment cost. Right. On the other hand, the 3PL market, as I mentioned earlier, is only 2.5% in size today, comparatively compared to the 50% that we see in more mature supply chain scenarios. Right. So another opportunity to drive rapid penetration in the next 3 or 4 years. E-commerce logistics, well, it's less than 1% of the total market, need I say more. If we are going to be 10% of the retail market, or rather the commerce opportunity in India, well, this has to grow tenfold within next 4 or 5 years. So another big opportunity there on the supply chain side to participate in this transformation journey in India and to be a catalyst in driving the transformation. Here are our key beliefs from an e-cart business unit as such. What's going to drive a lot of that? Mobile, Internet of Things and intelligence will change a lot of paradigms of the supply chain. Something as fundamental as a database of addresses in India is not a very structured data today. Right? Everybody has been trying to develop it on their own. If we are going to play at that scale, we have to solve for the problems like those, and we cannot rely on, as it has happened in the other markets. We'll have to find our solutions in technology and intelligence to figure that out. Current supply chain infrastructure, technology and human talent will be a limiting factor. If you ask us what is our number one problem today, our number one problem today is talent. You go to Germany and you go to UK, supply chain is as highly paid a profession as is banking or consulting or anything else. In India, supply chain is more or less, there's a dearth of talent. You have a lot of talent who can do the transactional stuff for you, but even there is not enough, so to say, readiness for the job. You have to bring them in, you have to train them. Well, if we have to cover so much road in next 4 years, do we have the time and energy to bring in, let's say, 10,000 people every year and train them and hope that, at least some of them will become the professionals that we expect them to be able to serve the kind of demands that Indian consumer is putting on us today. And overall, e-commerce warehousing is a very much, I would go on a limb here and say warehousing as such as a service is very much a broken piece today. If we are going to serve with a higher speed, we need to have our inventory in the right place at the right time to serve the right customer. But if it takes us 2 years to build a warehouse, if it takes us, just 6 months to get a ready-built warehouse just to work for us as we need it, well, that's not going to cut it for us for sure as well. And that's in a way, the limiting factor on who grows how fast is going to be how fast they are developing their own supply chain infrastructure. Because it's at this moment it is so much in demand that of course there's going to be very little of shared infrastructure, so to say, in the beginning, but more of that, can I go and lock down that capacity before my competitor does, so that I have the advantage. Yes, that guy has the better product, but if he cannot fulfill those services, what's the use? So there has to be a balance around that part as well. So this is more or less our vision on the 10-year that we want to transform the supply chain in India through technology. Again, the emphasis, because again, we are Flipkart, our focus remains on technology. But e-cart business unit's focus is transforming supply chain, not just for e-commerce, because we see a lot of synergy with the bigger market that exists out there, a lot of other industries, a lot of other groups that are struggling to solve the same problem, and we have quite a lot of synergies there. Automation, especially process and design, relevant for key here is the emerging market, is going to play a big role in making large fulfillment centers viable in India. The whole economics of low cost of capital, low rentals, but high labor cost that has driven automation in US, that whole economics is very different in our market. We have cheaper labor, but we have higher rentals, comparative or even higher than the Western standards, and we have a higher cost of capital. Well, and everybody else is judging the opportunity cost of capital in the developed markets in single digits. We are counting that cost of capital depending on which opportunity cost, depending on which currency you're accounting for, in double digits, anywhere from 15-16% to 24-25%, so on and so forth. Asset marketplaces. So in transportation, like the trucking industry and others that I talked about, our hypothesis is that we are going to drive them to become more an Uber-like on-demand service, get it more organized. That's the kind of players that we want to work with. That's the kind of the ecosystem we want to push for and champion for, and would like to see emerging. So in terms of what are our choices going forward, our choices are, after the whole walking through the whole thought process, are pretty much boiling down to the 4 things. Core is the innovation and leveraging technology and data. It is a supply chain story, but the theme here also remains familiar on that story. Last mile will be a focus for differentiated customer experience, as I mentioned earlier, that this is one area where the only area where a consumer interacts physically with somebody who's representing Flipkart or anybody else for that matter. Then fulfillment, in the short term, the fulfillment center side of the story needs to be figured out and figured out quickly, because that's going to drive a lot of investment from us in the supply chain. That is going to be one of our biggest infrastructure investment that we are planning for. There was a press release or an interview, I forget which one, about 3 or 4 months ago, where Vinny had talked about close to $500 million investment in fulfillment centers in India to be able to cater the demands of the customers that we see coming and that we project to serve, right? And the 4th part is disproportionate focus on transportation, because given that it's an unsolved for problem so far in the industry. As I had mentioned earlier, the pricing remains opaque. You have no idea about how much capacity is available in the market, how much time it will take for you to reliably drive from, let's say, Bangalore to Mumbai. Right. So if you look at the whole, the variance in the performance of trucking lane like Delhi to Bangalore, it is as much as 60%. So how can I assure you that you will get your delivery within 3 days if for a significant percentage of the time my truck shows up after 3 days? And while we want to promise you a delivery at a lower cost 99.5% of the time. Right? So if statistically an impossible problem to solve unless and until we dive into this, roll up our sleeves and drive an agenda on this front. So that's more or less what I had for you today. Thanks guys and good luck. Enjoy the spread.